right, I see it's 5 o'clock, so we can go ahead and get started with today's meeting. Once again, hi everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending today's CSC meeting. To ensure that today's meeting is accessible to everyone here today, we're going to go ahead and be providing instructions on choosing the correct language channel here on Zoom.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos. Les recordamos que tenemos interpretación simultánea al español para esta reunión. Si usted desea escuchar la junta en español e ingresó con una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom va a haber el icono de un mundo. Por favor, seleccione ese icono y seleccione el canal de español. También les invitamos a seleccionar silenciar el audio original para que nada más escuchen al intérprete y no dos voces a la vez. Y si usted se unió con un teléfono móvil o con una tableta, va a tocar su pantalla, va a buscar los 3 puntitos donde diga más o more, va a seleccionar donde dice interpretación de idioma, después seleccione el canal de español y nuevamente les recordamos silenciar el audio original para que solo escuchen al intérprete y por último es muy importante que seleccionen el botón donde dice done, listo o finalizado para que ya nos puedan escuchar y ahora voy a dar mis instrucciones en inglés. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is your Spanish interpreter. I'm just reminding you that we have a simultaneous interpretation available for this meeting. So if you're a monolingual English speaker, we do encourage you to please select the English channel. That way you can have that communication from Spanish into English. If you're joining with that computer, you'll see at the bottom of your screen a word-like icon. Click on that word and select the English channel. If you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, you need to tap your screen. Find the 3 dots, select a language interpretation, select English, and then select done. If you need any help finding the options, please let us know. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Now that we are in the correct language channel, we can go ahead and continue. There we go. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, once again, and welcome to our September Shafter Community Steering Committee meeting. It's great to see you all here tonight. My name is Vanessa Gomez, and I will be facilitating today's meeting with my colleague, Jem Marasigan. We are joined today by our colleague, Dr. Diana McDonald and Stephanie Ng from the Air Districts. Before we kick off today's meeting, there are some housekeeping items that we'd like to review with you all. I know that these are familiar to many of you, but it's always helpful to remind ourselves of them before we continue with the rest of the meeting. So before we get started, we ask that you please mute yourself and make sure that your full name and organization are showing as your screen name. To change your screen name, click on the top right side of your picture or video. CSC members, you can use the naming convention CSC -first name, last name. For residents, you can use a naming convention R -first name, last name. And for all other participants, please use the naming convention first name, last name, -affiliation. For members of the Air District or California Air Resources Board staff, we ask that you please use AD or CARB as your affiliation. If you're a member of the general public, please use P as your affiliation. And for all other organizations, please write out your organization name. And we'd like you to note that meeting hosts may update your screen name as needed during the meeting. As you all know, Jem and I are available to help with technical support, and we will also be keeping track of action items as they appear during today's meeting. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need any technical support at any time, or if you have any questions, you can just contact us via the chat with your questions and we'll make sure to answer them. I would like to note that we don't have a co-host tonight, but we continue to encourage anyone who is interested in volunteering to co-host for a CSC meeting to reach out to us and let us know so we can support you and make sure that that happens. As a reminder, co-hosts decide the level of participation and facilitation that they take on during CSC meetings. And our team at H&Co, as well as the Air District, will make sure to prepare you before and during the meeting so that you feel comfortable to facilitate during the CSC meeting. Additionally, if you have any recommendations on how to best encourage CSC members to co-host with us, please don't hesitate to send them our way. We'll be happy to listen to them. And I want to thank you all once again for taking the time to be here tonight. We really value your engagement, your participation during these CSC meetings, and we want to also remind you that it's ultimately because of you and your collaboration that you will be able to develop and implement new strategies, not just to monitor air quality, but also to help reduce health impacts in your neighborhood. To ensure community input and participation during today's meeting, we ask that you please adhere to the commitments for engagement that you all agreed on and see on this slide. So before I continue, I would like to ask if anyone has any questions about any of these commitments before we transition on to the next slide. Not seeing any raised hands or any comments in the chat, so I will go ahead and continue. And as a reminder, before we launch into our first item on the agenda, we ask that you please don't forget the topics that you see in front of you today are a direct representation of the topics that CSC members have requested, either during the last CSC meeting or during the most recent agenda setting meeting. And speaking of agenda setting meetings, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to CSC members who were able to participate at last month's agenda setting meeting. On behalf of my team, I want to say how grateful we are for the input that you provided about last month's CSC meeting, as well as the consensus item. And we want to let you know that we intend on implementing a voting structure that works for everyone, that's transparent and is accessible to the Shafter CSC. And we also want to let you know that the consensus building process that was set up last month is not representative of how we want it to go on from here on out. And so we apologize for the confusion that might have caused. And we really appreciate your patience and cooperation as we continue to smooth out the kinks in the process and make sure that this is an accessible voting process for everyone. That being said, today's agenda topics are designed to give DPR a chance to share a demo on the pesticide notification system. They're also designed to provide an update on CERP measure implementation, provide standing updates, and share updates on action items from the previous meeting. And also, as you can see, we have our usual public comments item at the end of the meeting, but we do want to remind folks and encourage folks to ask questions at the end of each agenda item, if you have them, so that you don't have to wait until the very end to get the answers that you're looking for. And at this time, I would like to pass it on to Stephanie for welcome remarks.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, and good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I'm a program manager in our Community Strategies and Resources Department. And I wanted to thank you all for being here tonight. It's a huge privilege to be able to get to spend these evenings with you all to improve air quality in the Shafter community. Just echoing what Vanessa shared, I just wanted to share my appreciation for all of those who attended the agenda setting meeting that we had and provided really great feedback to shape tonight's meeting. Some of those things that you'll see kind of implemented tonight is including putting our agency partners first in the meeting to ensure that they have a chance to present, and also hearing just lots of great CERP implementation updates. So I'm really looking forward to tonight and ready to hop in. So pass back to you, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. At this time, I'd like to transition onto the next agenda item that we have for today and introduce DPR, or the Department of Pesticide Regulation, who will share an update on statewide pesticide notification system progress, and will also be providing a demo on the system. We want to keep in mind that some of you have already attended a demonstration given by DPR at other meetings, while others are seeing this information for the first time. Regardless of your familiarity with the system, we strongly encourage you to ask any questions or comments that you have. We will definitely be sure to write down those questions and develop action items corresponding to next steps. And we ask that you please focus your questions on the pesticide notification system at this time. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns before we begin? Not seeing any hands raised or any comments, so I will go ahead and pass the mic on to DPR. Maziar, will you be presenting today?
Actually, Sam Silva should be presenting.
Yep, I'll be providing the demo here.
Got it. Thanks, Sam.
Yes.
Will you like questions during or after your presentation?
I can have some questions directed during the call. That's fine. It's meant to be an interactive demo. But before I jump in, just wanted to say thank you for having us. As mentioned, if this is a repeat to some of you, apologies in advance, but there might be some new things or updated things along the way. And just I want to preface that this is a development system. It still has bugs, so bear with me, but it is getting close thanks to a lot of feedback provided by many different groups, including this one. And just again, noting that it's in development and this is considered, we kind of consider it in a beta phase or very close to it. And with that, I will share my screen. Ken, is there anything else you wanted to add before I jump in?
Sure. So, good evening, everybody. So I'm Ken Everett. I'm the assistant director here with DPR. Sam and I are co-presenting here tonight to discuss this notification system that we've been working on since, I think, 2020. I'll just base the fact that a lot of the information that we have received that made this system into what it is today is based on a lot of feedback we've received over the years through workshops, as well as various meetings, and also the pilots that we ran last year through Santa Cruz, Riverside, Ventura, and Stanislaus counties. So we received a lot of valuable information that helped us create this system today. I'll just reiterate, the system is designed for the notification on the notification system of the restricted material program. We are using the current program or current restricted material system to make this system work. So again, and then restricted materials are our most highly regulated pesticides. So I just want to reiterate that, these are going to be, if not all pesticides, but just restricted materials, which require a notice of intent to be submitted. I would also say that, the feedback we did receive was very valuable in helping us design this system. It made this system a far friendlier format to be used. We've taken a lot of the information and suggestions, such as Spanish and English needs in the system. Also the anonymous searching capability, which was highly asked for. It also has email and text messaging capabilities, but it is based on a web-based system. And it also will provide a lot of information on how we register pesticides and other pesticide information. So at this point, I think it'd be, Sam, if you want to go ahead and demonstrate the system so people can actually see it.
Yeah.
Go with it from there.
And just on that related note, it is a web-based system, but we did take a lot of the feedback just to make it, again, as Ken mentioned, kind of as easy to use as possible. Keeping it anonymous, not requiring a login. It requires a login right now, but that's because it's for demo purposes. But really simplifying how to interact with the system compared to the previous pilots. Our goal was trying to make this basically you going to a website, being able to search for an address or sign up very quickly and efficiently, whether you're on your laptop, whether you're on your phone or tablet. It works across all those devices. So jumping in, this is our homepage. Again, we're going with Spray Days. This is just a draft name. So always open for feedback. And again, we can keep this interactive, but I'll kind of go through a demo and a number of features of the site. And then we can kind of open it up to wider questions or wider exploration of the site. So this is the home page. Immediately you have a search bar where you can enter an address, and this is populated by Google, so it automatically populates any address that it follows that you search for, and it recognizes within the state of California. Other features of the site, the sign-up process, some of you may be familiar with in previous pilots. This is where people can sign up via text message or email to receive notification updates, kind of the more traditional notification process. We built out a fairly robust FAQ. I'll get to that a little bit later. Community health page, just to kind of learn more about what you can do if you're exposed to pesticides or those around you, what numbers to call, various resources, etc. Also, if you're concerned about illegal pesticide use, we provided a link here that links directly to our website. And we also have an overview just about how pesticide products are registered within our state through our department. But with that, I will actually, before I get into that, I want to just show the sign up page before I get into the fun part of the mapping feature. And that is being able to enter an address, a phone number, and a language, currently English or Spanish, and sign up. That's all the information that it requires. And we currently allow for 10 addresses per sign up to 10 addresses.
So Sam, yeah, so just I want to clarify, this is if you want to store up to 10 addresses in the system to get alerts for those areas,
yes.
The system will provide that to you. However, if you do not want to provide that information, you just strictly want to look up anonymously, you'll go through this well, Sam showed them that's the address you'll want to use for any kind of anonymous type looking at the system.
Correct. And thank you for clarifying that point, Ken. It's not required to sign up by any means. That's only if you want that function. If you want to just search for an address, you just simply go onto the website, search for an address. In this case, I searched for an address in Monterey County, and you're met with a number of numbers. And this is kind of my demo environment. And I know that this area typically has upcoming proposed applications, and these numbers indicate the number of proposed applications in that block. And those blocks are 1 by 1 mile. And if I click on those blocks as I'm doing now, you'll see the future proposed application date. So in this case, it's tomorrow. The product name, the active ingredients associated with it, the application method, the amount, and the EPA registration number. So the great thing about this is you are not just limited to this screen that you saw, that you searched for. You can actually zoom out and cruise the entire map. In this case, I will click on Santa Barbara. And I believe there's a bug because I'm not seeing these. There we go. And here in Santa Barbara, here is a different product name with a different active ingredient that is proposed at a different time tomorrow. So again, this is meant to be very easy, intuitive, where you can click around various counties across the state. So if you just want to kind of explore the map, you have that option. But if you want something more specific, you can always just type in an address near you. And I believe you can also use the current location feature. So if you are in a new location, you're not familiar with an address, you can also select the current location feature that just pinpoints, just like this block here, as if you typed it in. That is the basis of the mapping function and kind of the bread and butter of the application besides the sign up. We also did enable QR codes, and these are basically to be able to print or use if you want to take that address or have that address handy. That QR code will be associated with that address that was entered. But moving away from the map, I do want to share kind of the robust information section. So this was based on a lot of feedback on just how are all pesticides sprayed, or how are they all applied? What do all of those various things mean? So treated amount, active ingredients, EPA registration number, just a more thorough explanation to what each of those identifiers means on the map. And then also just general information is, how do I find my county ag commissioner? What are the symptoms of pesticide exposure? But we wanted to make this as thorough as possible if there are any questions around notifications.
Thank you, Sam. Is this information available in Spanish as well?
Yes, I should have got to that at the top, but yes, at the very top of my screen here, I have a small toggle that if I hit that toggle, the site is now translated into Spanish. And that applies to the map, that applies to the homepage. If I click on the homepage, there might be a few words here and there that haven't been fully translated because this is still a work in progress. But yes, as you can see here, the homepage has been, and all of these buttons have been translated. And on a phone, it would appear as a little swipe. And yeah, you swipe and you can view this information in Spanish and sign up in Spanish as well.
Thank you.
Of course. And on a related note, the community health information I'll show in Spanish, available in both English and Spanish. But again, various resources, numbers to dial if you're concerned about pesticide exposure, what to look out for, when you should dial 911, and things along those lines.
I have one more question, if it's okay to ask. So you showed the map and you mentioned there's some areas where there are multiple pesticide applications. And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about that. Does that mean that there are multiple pesticide applications happening concurrently, or are they happening on different days? What does that mean in comparison to when there's just one?
So Ken, I'll let you field that one, but we do keep this up for a certain amount of time, and I always butcher this, so I'll let Ken speak on this.
So yes, so for those sites that have multiple sites or multiple applications occurring, it doesn't necessarily mean that's happening at the same site. It's could be, considering we're using a 1 mile by 1 mile grid system here, we could be dealing with a couple of different growers. Also, with a notice of intent, they propose a time when they think they're going to start the application. And the system will display that information 24 hours prior to that application for restricted materials. But for soil fumigant restricted material products, that'll be a 48-hour prior notice that the system will display this. I will also add that a grower has up to 4 days to start the application once they have passed their 24-hour or 48-hour notice time frame. So the system will basically have some information up there for as long as 6 days. However, once that 4-day window has passed, the system will take it down at that point because the application should have started. If it had not, the grower is required to resubmit a new NOI. So it'll give us a new date and time at that point. So again, that's kind of again, based on the restricted material system we have. Did that answer your question, Vanessa?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, did something come in the chat and I missed it?
Not seeing anything in the chat so far.
All right, well, if there are no questions, I will go ahead and stop sharing, and just want to, again, thank you everyone for having us and allowing us to show what we've come up with so far. And again, this is based off a lot of feedback and a lot of improvements to the previous versions.
I will add that we are continuing on. As you can see, we have the new system, which obviously has some bugs to be worked out, but we are working on setting up the next phase of testing of this system, which is to be a beta testing system. So we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have that up going in the next few months. So at this point, we have one county that we'll be working with right now to help get us started. And we'll from there we will probably we'll be looking for other possible counties to participate in the future as well. The beta will be pretty much sectioned to the county that is volunteering to do this. We will be doing outreach with that county and those participants. So once that time is coming, we'll start putting the word out for those participants. We will meet with everybody to help get them orientated to the system and develop means for which them to provide feedback to us. So with that, we're kind of moving on to the next phase, and hopefully we'll be getting more feedback from everybody in the near future.
Exactly, Ken. Thank you for bringing that up. And just to echo, the beta test is to just continue to improve the system, identify more issues or bugs, and also just to get more constructive feedback to make it better across the various user groups.
Great. Thanks very much, Sam and Ken. I would love to hear any questions or comments. If CSC members have them, please feel free to raise your hand or share those questions, comments, concerns in the chat.
And we're happy to take things after the call too.
I see Cesar has posted a question. Is there a reason behind the 1 mile squares?
So yes, the system is based on our current system of notice intent, which is basically works off of the, I'm blanking out the name right now of it. It's the township range section that we have been using for notice of intent and for our restricted material programs for decades. So that is the system we have available to us to do this. And as far as it goes down is to a 1 mile by 1 mile section.
Okay, thank you for that. So the 1 mile by 1 mile is as gradient as the system that currently exists can get?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, at the state level.
Could you work if there was a system that had more granular information near neighborhoods or schools? Could the county, if they choose to do so, work to make sure that that more granular info is provided within the notification system?
Not in this system, unfortunately, because the system is going to be an automated system. So, as soon as the grower submits that information to us, it'll go directly to us at the same time. And that's when we will post that information as well. But any further granular information would have to be done at the county level. So you would have to work with the county ag commissioners on that to get that information at this time.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, Cesar. Any other questions or comments before we transition on to the next agenda item? Not seeing any hands raised or any comments at this time, but if you happen to have any questions, comments about the memo or the demo, sorry, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll be happy to make sure that they are fielded to the right people so that you get the answers that you're looking for. Thanks very much to Ken and Sam once again for that demonstration and for that information. This next item that we have for you all today is an exciting 2-part SERP measure implementation updates. So first off, the Air District will be sharing information and soliciting feedback regarding submitting a truck project plan to CARB, which would add a new pathway to the truck replacement SERP measure to purchase zero emission trucks. And the community benefit of this measure is that it would reduce emissions from heavy-duty diesel trucks. And the goal of this item is to share context about the proposed plan and to make space for CSC members to provide feedback and ask questions. We'd like to be clear that there is no pressure to decide today on the truck project plan item. Consensus for this item will be reached at a later meeting. So the purpose for today's item is clearly to make sure that everyone gets the information they need and that they have the space to ask questions or provide comments regarding this item. And for the second part of today's SERP item, the Air District will be providing updates on 4 SERP measures, which include passenger vehicle repair and replacements, road, sidewalk, bike lane improvements, urban greening and vegetative barriers, and EV or electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So there is a lot of great information that is going to be shared tonight. We definitely encourage you all to share questions or concerns if you have them about any of these measures. We will definitely be sure to write down your questions and develop action items. And to make sure that we have enough time to get through tonight's agenda, and because there will be a lot of information shared during this item, I will say that the Air District does plan on creating and distributing an FAQ or a frequently asked questions document to everyone here today after tonight's CSC meeting. So if you are unable to get your question answered during this item, rest assured that your question will be answered in that FAQ document that will be distributed later on. I know that was a lot of information. So before we continue, does anyone have any questions or comments about what I just shared? Not seeing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic on to Stephanie. Stephanie, would you prefer questions during or after your presentation?
Hi, Vanessa. This is Stephanie. I have a couple of, I'm going to go through, there's a couple of different sections. And so after those couple of slides for that section, I'll stop and then I'll ask if anyone has any questions or feedback at that time. I just wanted to share my appreciation also for our partners at the Department of Pesticide Regulation for being here tonight. They didn't have an opportunity to present in our last meeting, and so they came back in this meeting. So I just wanted to share my thanks for them coming to this meeting as well. And thank you all for engaging with that presentation. We received, like I mentioned, and Vanessa also mentioned at the start of the call, we received some really great feedback during the agenda setting meeting that folks are really interested in hearing some of our SERP implementation updates. And so the majority, pretty much the rest of this meeting will be to bring these updates to you all. Like Vanessa mentioned, there's going to be 2 parts. We're going to have a discussion about our heavy duty truck replacement measure that you all might have a lot of questions about. And so we're happy to take those questions. But if there's a lot of discussion, we definitely can plan to bring it back, because I also wanted to share that we have actually, following that discussion, a lot of other SERP updates to provide you all. So I just want you all to keep that in mind as we're having this discussion. With that, I'm going to share my screen and get us started. So like Vanessa mentioned, there's 2 kind of main portions of tonight's agenda. One will be the heavy duty truck measure discussion. And then we also have a SERP implementation updates that we have 4 SERP measures that we want to bring you all updates based on just exciting progress that we have. And then also CSC requests during the agenda setting to hear updates on specific measures. So again, the first thing we'll talk about our heavy duty truck measure. This is a new concept that we all are bringing, that we're planning on bringing to you all tonight. And so I'm going to present about 4 slides, and then I'm happy to take questions and feedback. And then we can always plan to continue discussing at future meetings if needed. And I have here today Janine Tackett, who's the supervisor over this program, that's also super knowledgeable about it and happy to answer any questions as well. So to get us started, as a reminder for what this measure is in your SERP, we do have a measure that is to replace heavy-duty trucks with zero-emission trucks at businesses that are located within our AB617 shafter boundary. In the SERP, there's $4 million allocated, And to date, we have not had anyone take advantage of this program. And so far that we've had 0 trucks replaced. In the next couple of slides, I'll present kind of the challenges that are ongoing and why we're seeing so little participation in the program. So generally, in terms of kind of why, really the reasons why we're not seeing too much participation is there are a lot of challenges for businesses, single owner operators to take advantage of this program. And really the crux or kind of the big issue around it is that a lot of these businesses and single owner operators cannot afford to give up their compliance. So these trucks are already following existing rules and regulations. And so they're not able to give up these compliant trucks in exchange for new technology that they're unsure will work for their businesses and operations. Kind of as we stand right now, the electric truck world, this is all very new and the technology is just coming out. So there's a lot of learning that's happening, a lot of things that businesses, these businesses that are putting out these trucks are still learning about the technology, trying to improve it. And so as this is happening, truck owners are facing challenges and concerns about transitioning to this technology. We at the district have conducted a lot of outreach, not just in kind of this in the Shafter area, but also just across the whole valley. And this is actually an ongoing issue that's happening across the whole state. And something that we actually found that, this is an issue again that the whole state is facing. And an air district actually in San Diego found a unique way to address this issue that we wanted to bring this concept to you all. And so at the San Diego Air Pollution Control District, they developed what they call, it's kind of a mouthful, but the Zero Emission Truck Pilot Program for their AB617 community. And we plan today to propose to submit a similar project plan for CARB for approval to open a new pathway for this program to allow for more participation. And I'm going to talk about more details about what this proposed project plan could look like. And as a reminder to you all, these project plans are what we need to submit to CARB to get approval for these programs. It talks about kind of the guidelines, what funding will be spent on. Once we have that approval, that's something that we really need in order to kind of move forward these programs. And so what we are proposing to submit in this new project plan that would hopefully allow for more truck owners, single owner operators to participate in this incentive program is to have a couple of different components in this project plan. So one of those is to allow owners within the Shafter AB617 community to expand their fleet. So purchase electric trucks without the need to scrap their existing compliant vehicles. So the traditional program that we have had open in this whole time that we haven't had folks participate in, the traditional program that we have is to have someone purchase a truck and then scrap their older one. And again, like I'm mentioning, a lot of owners are facing challenges because they are not sure whether or not these new electric trucks will work for their operations. And so what we're proposing is to allow them to purchase new trucks without that need to scrap their compliant, so already following the rules and regulations that they need to. The second component is to increase the funding amount that's allowed per truck replacement. And then the third requirement is for there to be a specific number of trips made in the Shafter AB617 boundary. And so generally with this kind of conversation, we just wanted to bring to you all an update on the measure that we really haven't seen any participation in the program as it stands. And so what we bring to you today is an opportunity to submit a new project plan to CARB that would open a new pathway to hopefully increase participation in the program. And so this is something that we can talk about, but we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your questions, your thoughts on this proposal, and eventually a question that we want to get your thoughts on and your support on is whether or not, yes, you do support submitting a project plan to CARB with this new pathway, or whether it's something that you do not support. And it's something we can continue to discuss at a future meeting or continue on with the existing program. So this is a question, again, we'll bring to you all when you feel prepared to kind of address the question. But right now, as it stands, we know this is a new concept and we will definitely want to hear your questions and feedback. So I'm seeing some things in the chat and some raised hands. So I'm happy to take any questions that the CSC has.
Linda, go ahead. I see you have your hand raised.
Oh, I think the chat went before I did. I can wait. I think someone asked some stuff in the chat before I did.
Yes, I think, so Michelle asked how much does a heavy truck weigh? And Janine responded, trucks in this category are 14,000 pounds.
So this is Janine with the Air District. We're talking about class 4 through 8 trucks. So they're going to be gross vehicle weight rating, which is GVWR, of 14,001 pounds and greater. So this will be anything from your small delivery van, such as like what FedEx or Amazon uses, all the way up to a large class 8 truck that would be pulling a trailer or have a box on it. We would not be looking at long haul, which would be your traditional sleeper cab, big rig that you would see going cross country. The zero emission trucks are not there yet. So it would be all local delivery, but all the way up through that largest class 8 size.
Great. Thank you, Janine, for the clarification. I think that was the only comment in the chat, Linda, so you can go ahead.
Okay, I had just a few questions as you're going through the presentation, and I was just wondering, like basically how much these trucks range from new. I'm just kind of curious. I was also curious, you said that no one had participated in this, and I was wondering if it's because of the range of these trucks, like since we're so rural out here, is that an issue as to why people might be shying away from this? Because I really don't know, and please correct me if there's like a supercharge station or anything for if someone's out with these delivery vans. Like, I don't know where they would charge in Shafter or anywhere around. So I know Teslas, I think, I don't have one, but someone said that will like light up different areas they can go charge. I mean, I've heard of them up by Harris Ranch and Avenal, but I don't know really and I think there might be like a Tesla thing in Buttonwillow, but for these trucks, I don't know where they would do that. The other thing is, since this is new, are there service centers for the electric trucks to get worked on? I was kind of curious how much Valley Air, when you said you were going to raise what they could give, how much more, like, you know, they were going to give compared to how much these trucks are. And then, so a small delivery van, or I didn't really understand what it went up to. So it's not something that would haul over the grapevine or anything. It's, could you give me an example, like what the truck would be?
Sure, this is Janine. Let me see if I can quickly run through your questions there. Cost on the largest size, we're going to take a class 8, which would be, let me see if I can give you an example of a local haul class 8. So you see a truck pulling a big long trailer delivering to a grocery store. That's going to be typically a class 8 truck. It's going to have 2 axles in the back of the truck, 1 axle up front, and then it'll be hooked up to a trailer that it's pulling with its commodities in it. That style of truck is going to run on average $550,000 for just the truck. Now, as you go down in size, of course, the cost goes down. The smaller sized trucks, class 4, 5, even a class 6. A class 6 is going to be very classic of a local delivery. Trying to think of maybe some that you may see running around the area. I'm thinking of like a bread company that delivers to grocery stores. They're a little bit smaller sized truck, maybe even a beverage delivery truck. Those are going to be more in like the class 6, 7 size. Those are going to be, of course, a little less expensive. I have not seen quotes on all of the weight categories. Most of what we've seen have been on the Class 8 trucks, because we do have some demonstration projects that are happening, and those are all involving Class 8 trucks. So we're much more familiar with the cost of those right now.
So like, let's just stick with, since you kind of had the Class 8. So that's $550,000 for a truck. So what's the incentive like Valley Air is proposing to help? That's a lot of money for
it is. It is definitely a lot. We're proposing somewhere between 75 to 90% of that cost being covered. We have been analyzing, because this is a pathway that we're proposing to multiple communities. We have been analyzing a lot of different angles, I guess you would say, based on feedback and comments we've received from other community, AB617 community members. So we are looking at probably somewhere around a bottom end of 75% up to as high as 90% potentially. One of the things that we did hear quite frequently from fleets during our outreach efforts was the financial risk to them was way too high. There is a statewide program called HVIP. It's the Hybrid Voucher Incentive Program that the state of California offers for electric vehicles, heavy duty electric vehicles. And in many cases, the fleets that we've seen in the Valley that have actually purchased large zero emission trucks did so because they were able to stack that program with other funds that we had at the time, which were federal funds. And the combination of those two pots of money got them to about 85% coverage. And so that seems to be where most fleets are willing to take that risk. You also asked about infrastructure, about charging, and that's a great question as well. There are not a lot of heavy duty chargers, sprinkled around the area yet. There are a lot of stations and infrastructures plans in progress, but it does take time. But there is money within our programs, and I believe within the Shafter SERP to help cover the cost of infrastructure. So if a local Shafter fleet or business wanted to take on an electric truck, we can definitely work with them to help provide funding to install a charger at their facility so that they can charge. And again, the trucks that are available to purchase today are ones that are going to be leaving and coming back to home base daily. These are not trucks that are going to be going overnight anywhere. So they'll be able to do their route, come back and charge. There are different levels of chargers and they take different amounts of times to charge. The best option is a DC fast charger. It's what we call a level 3, and that'll charge a large truck within, I believe it's about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. There's also one down, which is called a level 2. And that generally is what people would refer to like a trickle charger. It's going to take all night. So that in that situation, it would be suitable for a fleet that runs a fairly short local route. And then the truck comes back home, gets plugged in, and is ready to go the next morning.
So how long is the range on that truck? So since it's rural, I mean, for us in Shafter, it takes us a half hour to get to Bakersfield, and you're crossing Bakersfield a half hour, 45 minutes. So can this truck make a route all day?
So it really depends on the truck, the size of the truck we're talking, and the manufacturers. Most of our large trucks, if we're going to kind of keep it within the realm of that big truck, the Class 8, are sitting right around 150 to 200 mile range right now. And just like your passenger vehicles, that range is subject to many things, including things such as the weather, how hot it is, if you're running your AC, if it's carrying its max capacity load, or if it's carrying a little bit lighter load. So the product that's being moved can affect that variability, but most of those are sitting somewhere in the 150 to 200 mile range. So again, we're looking to target local delivery style vehicles that even things such as school districts, many school districts, and I don't know if the Shafter area school districts are big enough to have the larger vehicles, but they often will have class 6 or 7 sized trucks for their food delivery to take the food to each of the school sites. Those are a great one because again, they're just driving within a small radius each day. And of course, the range is another factor that fleets become very hesitant on because again, they're unsure, will it make it all day without running out of a charge? Real quickly, before I forget, you had also asked about service centers. Right now, because the technology is very, very new, the service is only through the dealerships. As time progresses, just like with any new technology, we will see that expand out to local shops. But as of right now, it is only at the dealerships, but they do have technicians that will come out, and I shouldn't say that, let me rephrase that, excuse me. Most of the manufacturers have technicians that are mobile technicians, and they will come out to help service or attend to a vehicle at a remote location as needed.
And then, I'm sorry, one more question. Do you have like a cost comparison of what the electricity costs versus the fuel?
I do not, but I do know that the power companies have, let's see, I guess in Shafter would be SoCal Edison. Both SoCal Edison and PG&E have programs for infrastructure for heavy duty and light duty. And they have a lot of great tools, but part of their analysis that they will do with a company that's looking to electrify their vehicles is run through that scenario and provide those cost comparisons. A lot of it has to do with the type of charger they're going to select and what their charging needs will be. So it's going to be quite variable depending on each business that we look at, the size of their vehicles, the number of vehicles, the routes, how long they're going to be going. But they do have those tools available. So if a fleet is interested, we definitely, first thing we would do is get them connected with their power company and start going through that process of what will it take to electrify, some of our vehicles in our fleet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Janine. Michelle, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes. How long do these batteries usually last in these trucks? Is that the same kind of what you get out of a regular battery in a truck? Are they longer? How does that kind of work on those trucks?
That's a great question, and I don't think I have a great answer for you because we are, for many of the manufacturers, dealing with first or maybe at best second generation, and each manufacturer uses a slightly different battery composition. I think there's a lot of variability depending on the brand, but the batteries in them are definitely going to be much longer lived than a regular car battery. It's going to be much more similar to our passenger electric vehicles, like your passenger Tesla or Chevy, whatever the little Chevy one is, a Volt. I can't ever keep them straight. But they are going to have a much longer life than a standard car battery in a gasoline powered car. And so, yeah, I could probably do a little research and send some information back through the information channel in a few days with some more information on what the anticipated battery life is on those.
That would be great. And also, since we are so rural, a lot of equipment gets broken into, and one of the things they like to steal is batteries. So what kind of price point are on a replacement batteries?
So these batteries are not like what you would see in a regular car. These are very large, very heavy, and I do not think, and they're positioned under, like within the truck itself. So this isn't something that somebody could just easily remove and walk away with unless they had some heavy machinery in which to carry it. In fact, that kind of is one of the other things that fleets are hesitant about adopting the technology, is that the trucks are much heavier overall because of those batteries than a standard diesel truck. So there is a little bit of decreased payload is what they call. So the amount of product they can put on that truck to haul with still staying within the requirements of the Department of Transportation for how much their total truck and product can weigh on the road. There is still a little discrepancy there. So these are not things that they could easily be taken out of a truck and stolen. I think it would be very challenging to do that, to pull that off.
Well, when equipment's parked for a weekend, they get very clever very fast.
But these are thousands of pounds. So this isn't like a couple hundred pounds. We're talking several thousand pounds of weight in these batteries. And again, they would have to completely remove the cab of the truck off the chassis in order to access them. So definitely much more challenging. Now, impossible, you're right, thieves can think of all sorts of creative ways to get to what they want. But I haven't heard of a lot of electric car battery thefts. Maybe other people have different experiences. So I don't know if there's really a big demand within the black market for these very giant power cell batteries that are in these vehicles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Janine, for that clarification. And thanks to everyone for your participation, for your great questions up to this point. I do see that we still have some information to share regarding the 4 CERT measures that Stephanie mentioned. So if it's okay with folks, we're going to transition to that section of the agenda. If you have any additional questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
This is Stephanie. Thank you all for your great questions, and Janine for your expertise in answering them. I'm maybe just wanting to get a temperature check from this group. I'm not hearing kind of in the questions and feedback any objections to kind of this new project plan. And so wanting to see if CSC members have any thoughts of if they feel prepared to give us, support and feedback for it, and perhaps a survey after this meeting. We can follow up with a survey to get CSC members' thoughts, or if folks have a lot more questions and want to bring it back at the next meeting, that's something that we can also plan to bring. So just wanting to maybe gauge how CSC members are feeling about this concept and whether or not there's support for submitting a new project plan to open up a new pathway for program participation for businesses. And again, this pathway would be to allow for businesses to purchase and expand their fleets without the need to kind of that existing need to scrap a compliant truck. Seeing Linda's.
I thought it was a good idea to see if you can get folks interested without having to scrap an existing vehicle. My question is, though, say if there's some startups and they don't have a vehicle at all, can they still apply?
That's a great question. Typically, we haven't worked with that scenario, but I think it's definitely something we could look into. I think there would be some challenges for a brand new company that's just starting up to take on brand new technology that they don't know how it's going to function yet, but we could definitely look into that option and see if it would fit and it would be feasible.
I only asked that because there's some things that for the state of California for food recovery where they're going to need refrigerated trucks going around. And if you could use an electric truck to do that, I know it's going to eat up a lot of the battery having it refrigerated, but I don't think they would be going all day long. But if there's a way for some of these maybe nonprofits, like the food bank comes out here and the gleaners, because I know the nonprofits always have a hard time getting funding. And so if there's a way for them to get something that they could use, I think it would really benefit the whole community.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look at that. And, thinking about like the food delivery part, typically, The box portion that's holding the cargo has a separate refrigeration unit called a reefer. And that generally is powered on its own. And a lot of them now are zero emission electric refrigeration units on the box itself. So it's not retrieving its power from the truck, but from a separate unit. One of the things that we would have to consider is that we are looking at a plan that would be displacing current diesel miles so that there is some level of calculated emission reductions. In the case of a startup company, you have no pollution being created yet. But again, I think it's a great topic that you bring up, and a great scenario where helping to deploy some very clean vehicles could be very beneficial. So we'll definitely do some research into that.
I think that it's going to come more apparent with your other agencies that are under EPA. And I'm talking about Cal Recycle with 1383 and the edible food requirements for tier 1 and tier 2. So that is something that is dictated, and the laws are coming down, and you're going to see an uptick on the need for that with the food banks and other nonprofits needing to transport that because it is a state law. So just to put it out there, if there's a way to help those folks get the food to people in need, I think it would really be great.
For sure. Thank you so much for that. We'll definitely look into it.
And this is Stephanie. I'm seeing a question in the chat that actually reminds me of a couple of last points that I want to bring to you all. Again, this concept that we're bringing to you all is just generally support from the CSC, or asking for your support to submit this project plan. But I do want to put in context that this is something that we'll continue to discuss with the CSC and also discuss with CARB. This is kind of, this is really just kind of a first stopping point with us trying to move this project forward and kind of open this new pathway, because we do anticipate the approval process with CARB to take a little bit. We definitely want to continue to bring updates to you all. And so this really isn't the last time we'll talk about this measure. It's really just kind of seeking your support if you all are open to the concept of us submitting this project plan to potentially open this new pathway. So I hope that clarifies the question in the chat. I'm not seeing any last questions. I'm wondering if maybe I can see some reactions for if you all would like to have a survey, maybe have some time to kind of think about this, look at the slides again, and then ask any questions. And if you all would want us to send out this question to you all, seeking your support in a survey, maybe if there are thumbs up for that. And if I'm not seeing a lot of support from that, then I'm going to maybe think, and you all let me know if you all want to see this maybe back in the next meeting. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Michelle. And Vanessa, feel free to, and this is your forte, so feel free to.
No problem. Thanks, Stephanie. I'm seeing several thumbs up. If there are any folks who would also like to support this measure, please feel free to keep those thumbs up, or you can also share in the comments that you are interested in supporting this measure. It would really help us in moving this forward.
Yeah, and again, this is just if you want us to send out a survey to kind of ask this question to you all. That way you can think about it. You can ask questions if you need to, and we'll have a very clear deadline and provide some information for you all to think about. That way we're not kind of requiring you to answer right in this moment. You all have some time to think about it. Okay, seeing some more thumbs up. Well, thank you all for the feedback. That being said, the Air District will provide some more. Can we have a survey on dateline and requirements? Bianca, I might need a little bit of clarification on that.
So we could pass that information to other folks if it's possible. I was wondering if they could, if like the CSCs could pass information to maybe their family members that might have that interest.
Perfect. Information about the potential program for people that might participate. Okay, perfect. So I'm wondering in this email that the Air District will send out, we can send a survey to see whether or not there's support for us submitting this project plan with a clear deadline for you all. And then we'll also share just background information for you all, including what the proposal is. That way you have time to kind of review that on your own. And then like Bianca is saying, some information, just like if someone were to want to participate in the program, what some of those requirements would look like. So we can plan to follow up with you all really shortly here after the meeting. Go ahead, Cesar.
Yeah, I definitely support the survey as well. I think that's a good idea. And I was also wondering if you could probably either show the slide again or just describe the 3 things that you were wanting for the proposal.
Yes.
I know one of them was to not scrap the existing equipment, and I think that's definitely something that we could do, especially since in the last meeting we had, you shared that, you know, you're going to track the miles and they're going to be using the electric vehicle anyways, unless there are issues with that vehicle. And then they're going to have, you know, their old vehicle for backup. So I think that's a good measure. And I think maybe just some clarification on the other 2. I think the second one was to increase the amount you could give per truck, but maybe not necessarily increase the amount that's taken from the CSC total, right?
Correct.
And what was the third? The third one was requirements for trips made in Shafter. Oh, just that they're made within the Shafter boundary.
Yeah.
Okay,
And maybe
so,
to your,
go ahead.
oh no, just in terms of, I think you provided some really great background on that first point, kind of the reasoning behind it. The reasoning really for the second one is these challenges that Janine and I have been mentioning, just in terms of people, you know, businesses taking that leap. Part of that, I think the barrier is kind of that financial risk that they face. And so that's really the purpose behind that second point. And the third point is, of course, we want to make sure that all of our CERT measures are focusing on the impacts and kind of reducing pollution in our boundary. And so that's what that third point is to ensure that there are trips made within the boundary.
Sweet. And this isn't asking to take a bigger portion of the pie from the entire CSC, but rather to provide more money for each truck so that, you know, whoever decides to do this has to pay less for that truck than they would now with what the language that exists, correct?
This is Stephanie. That's exactly correct. We are not changing any funding. There's no funding reallocation from the CERP. It's the same pot of funding that you all kind of supported in the original CERP. It would just be changing kind of that incentive amount. Should it be the case that we see, you know, this, you all support this project plan, it goes through and it's approved, and we're seeing, you know, enormous participation in the program and not enough funding, we then come to you all and see if you all are interested in supporting, you know, reallocation, should it be necessary from other funds, if there are ones that, you know, we're not seeing as much movement. But again, that's something that we will revisit with you all, should it be the case.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that. I think if that money is already allocated for that, and we can just change some of the English that exists around it to make it more attractive for the company owners, then I think that's something that's totally fair, especially because it is going to be lowering it within the boundaries. So thank you for that clarification.
Perfect. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you, Stephanie. Sorry, there's one more question in the chat that I wanted to elevate from Anabel. She asked, how much time do you have for the truck project, and will you give us feedback when you receive applicants?
Yeah, and just in terms of timing for this truck project, please feel free to correct me if this doesn't answer it, but we just wanted to maybe provide you all with the background that in terms of us actually, this program is open. The traditional truck replacement program is already open and has not seen participation. And so with this new project plan, there's several steps that would need to happen in order for us to open that truck, this kind of new truck project plan concept, should the CSC support it. And that's, you know, submitting a project plan to CARB, and then also, you know, getting feedback on that and then taking it to our district governing board. So there's a couple of steps. This program wouldn't open, you know, immediately. We'd still have to do things on the back end to make sure we can open the program, use these funds appropriately. And then, yes, well, we generally, just in terms of all of our CERT measures, will bring kind of updates to the CSC on how the measures are progressing. that, I just want to thank you all for your feedback and the really great questions and the direction. The district will follow up in an email, and Janine and I and the whole district team, we're happy to take really any questions, any feedback, any concern, not just at these meetings, but anytime. Feel free to reach out to us. With that, Vanessa, I'm wondering if we have some other SERP updates, and I just want to see if we are good to move on to the rest of the updates.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm not seeing any hands raised, and there aren't any additional questions or comments in the chat, so you are free to go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And this is really kind of part 2 to this presentation we have. We just heard a lot of feedback again at the agenda setting that we just want to hear, the CSC wants to hear updates on how a lot of the CERT measures are going. So today I have 4 measures that I want to provide updates on. I'll run through them really quickly here, and then I'll stop at the end of each measure to take any questions from you all. But the 4 kind of buckets of measures we have are our passenger vehicle repair and replace program, the road, sidewalk, and bike lane improvement program, urban greening and vegetative barriers, and then also EV charging infrastructure. With that, I'm going to get it started. So we do have an exciting update for you all for our passenger vehicle repair and replace measures. Again, this concept, bringing back this concept of a project plan, this is something that we submit to the state or the California Air Resources Board, CARB, for approval so that we can open these programs. And so we are excited to share that the project plans for both our passenger vehicle repair and replace programs were recently approved by CARB. I know it's probably been a minute since we've discussed these programs more in depth, so I do just want to provide a little background again on what these 2 measures are. The first, the passenger vehicle repair measure, is to provide funding for vehicle emissions related repairs for older, higher polluting vehicles that are driving in the Shafter community. This measure has $300,000 allocated in the SERP. And then this other measure, passenger vehicle replace, this is funding for the replacement of passenger vehicles with battery electric or plug-in hybrid vehicles. And in the SERP, there is $800,000 allocated for up to 100 vehicles. And so again, the project plans for these 2 programs have been approved by CARB. And so what happens next? So in terms of next steps, the district, we will plan this month to take it to our district governing board for approval. That's another step that will need to happen for these 2 programs to open up. And what we'd like to propose is next month to work with you all to have an item on the agenda, as we're would be looking to kick it off in October, is to work with you all on program outreach and then also implementing the program. So now that these programs are open, how can we get the word out to residents? How can we get these programs and this funding into the community so folks can take advantage of this funding? And these are my updates on passenger vehicle repair and replace. Happy to take any questions at this point. Go ahead, Linda.
A while back, sorry, it went really fast. Was there something that it was going to get up to almost $20,000 for folks after? So I'm sorry, the slides went really fast. Is that still something that we're going to try and do?
Yeah.
With all this, I didn't understand if that was included in this. So that's what you're taking to the board, is to see if we can get almost 20,000 to folks.
Yes, okay. Thanks for the opportunity to clarify. So in Shafter in particular, your community supported up to 20,000 for the purchase of a new battery electric vehicle. And so that is still part of this measure. And what we generally, for these programs, these new programs that we open up, we generally do just seek the approval of our governing board. And so it's just the the program implementation for these 2 measures that we're taking, including the enhanced incentive amount of $20K for a new battery electric vehicle.
Okay, thank you. And you still have to turn in your old car, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Not seeing any other hands or comments in the chat. I'm happy to take really any questions about any of the measure. If you all think of something for this, when I move forward, feel free to go back and I'm happy to answer it. But I'm happy to move us along to our next SERP update. which is our road, sidewalk, and bike lane improvement program. We really thank the city of Shafter for providing us these updates. It's specific to a project on State Route 43 that we finalized the contract for with the city of Shafter. And so just some kind of progress that we have here is the funding agreement for the pedestrian and bike lane improvements on State Route 43 was recently executed with the city of Shafter. The next steps for the city of Shafter, their public works department, is to issue what we call a request for proposal, or an RFP. And this will be to solicit a company or some kind of entity for the engineering and design services within the next month. After that, once the RFP is awarded, services would take approximately 6 to 9 months to complete. And they'd be looking at construction to be completed by the end of 2024, which is a super exciting update. I do have one other slide, and then I'm going to stop after this one. It's just in terms of kind of next steps with this measure. And then I'm happy to take questions. There is one other project that the CSC did support kind of moving forward, and that is working with Kern County to finalize the contract for pave sidewalks and curbs and gutters in La Colonia. And also the district is generally working with the city to identify potential bike lane projects. And if you all remember that at the June in-person meeting, we did have an exercise where we had the bike community come out, give recommendations for bike lanes and bike paths in the community. And so we're continuing to work with the city to identify potential projects based on that feedback that we got at the June in-person meeting. So these are two things that we're kind of continuing to work on, and we'll bring you all updates as we have them.
And Linda, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you for bringing up the colony. I was wondering what happened to the sidewalks there. Is there a way that we can get a map of where the sidewalks, bike lane are going on 43? It's on the north end of town, correct? So it's north of Apple Market. And is it going up to Fresno where that park is going to be put in for the kids?
This is Stephanie. I think I can quickly find the map for you, but if I don't catch it, maybe I can we can send out in our standing updates, kind of a follow-up email that does include that, but let me see if I can find it very quickly for you.
Okay, and then also, thank you for the update on the bike paths. I know that there's a lot of people that were very interested in those.
I might need a minute, so the district will send out kind of a follow-up standing updates email and provide a map of where that is exactly on State Route 43.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
This is Vanessa again. Thank you, Linda, for that question. Thanks, Stephanie. Michelle, I saw that you had your hand raised. Do you have a question or a comment you'd like to share?
Linda asked the same question. I was like, I wasn't sure where everything was going. So maps would be wonderful to see so we can start to prepare for that. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you for your question. Does anyone have any other questions, comments that they'd like to share? Philip. Go ahead.
So I know we're on the subject of sidewalks, and I was driving down on Tulare today, and on the south end, between, I believe it's California and Kern, there happens not to be any sidewalks on the left side. Now, that's only for one section, where I think it's for the First Southern Baptist churches all the way until you hit that little strip by Mantle Park, but it's on the south end. So I was just curious if has that been even talked about by any chance? And again, this is on Tulare Avenue, West Tulare Avenue, right where Free Will Baptist is. I believe it's, let me look up the street again. I believe it is Kern Street. On the start of Kern Street where the Free Will Baptist Church is, or the First Southern Baptist Church, going all the way down to Central. On the south end, there's no sidewalks over there. So just curious if that's been brought up or even discussed about. So just wanted to acknowledge my point.
Thanks, Philip. I can follow up on that. I just took a note about that area, so I can follow up on that one.
Thank you, and good job of, about the Mexican colony getting the curbs and gutters. That's actually really awesome for them. And and the update on the bike trail. appreciate that.
Thanks, Philip. And in this time, Linda and Michelle and all the other folks that are interested in seeing, I did find the maps. They're a little bit fuzzy, but I do want to share them with you all. So if you can see my screen, this is the project that I just mentioned about that's on State Route 43. I'm going to zoom in specifically to the map. This road here is Fresno, and this down here is Tulare.
Oh, that's so exciting. This is so great.
Awesome. And I'm going to take us also to the second project in La Colonia. So this is the area view of that project.
So they already have curb and gutter, so we're putting in the sidewalks in all. It's not where you put. I mean, you're putting it in all the streets, right?
Projects will, let's see,
That
sidewalk,
yellow
curbs, and gutters along all of these streets, yes.
Okay.
About 0.8 miles in length. Thank you all for that question to see the maps. I'm going to take us back. If there are no other questions, I'm going to take us back to the presentation for our next SERP update. And that is with our urban greening and vegetative barriers measures. Again, these are two separate measures. Some updates that we have on urban greening that we did share actually kind of similar updates. We have some additional ones as well for today's meeting. We did re-release the request for proposal on August 14th. And again, as a reminder, this request for proposal or RFP is to solicit an entity to implement the program. We have received an application and it'll look to close at the end of this week. And so we're super excited about that we've received an application. For our vegetative barriers measure, we did at the last meeting we presented some updates and there was some feedback from the CSC, and then also Wonderful let us know that they were looking to kind of look into some of these comments that they received during the meeting. And so just as an update to you all, we are continuing to work with Wonderful on updating their proposals. For both of these measures, we will continue to bring updates as we get them.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is Vanessa. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding this SERP measure update? Not seeing any hands raised or any comments in the chat, so I'm going to pass it back to you, Stephanie. I know we have one more measure.
Thanks, Vanessa. The final measure I did want to provide you all an update with is on our EV charging infrastructure measure. You all may remember this back in April of this year. The CSC did support raising the funding cap for level 3 DC fast chargers to 50K. And really the purpose of this is we are working with the Central California Asthma Coalition, and they brought an opportunity kind of to the CSC of potentially matching state funds to get these chargers into the community. And so with that CSC support, we did bring this update to our district governing board, and they did approve this recommendation. And so kind of in the coming months, we will continue to work with the Central California Asthma Coalition to conduct outreach to potential applicants. And this is all in preparation for in the spring of next year, our plans to apply for Cal EVIP. Again, this is the state funding that we're looking to match with to secure level 3 DC fast chargers for what essentially will be very little to no cost. And then I'll just kind of mention also with this, in preparation for this, I know also in the June in-person meeting, we did collect feedback from CSC members about where they'd like to see chargers in the community. I know there were a lot of recommendations for different level 3 fast charge recommendations. And so we'll continue as we kind of prepare for this funding cycle that looks to open in the spring, working with agencies like the city and county, taking in and using this feedback that you all provided to be ready and prepared to submit applications for when this state funding does open up. And those are all of my updates for SERP implementation progress. I'm happy to take any questions about this slide or any of the other measures that I mentioned.
Any final questions, comments, concerns? You can feel free to raise your hand, or you can also add those comments and questions in the chat. I am not seeing anything in the chat, and I'm not seeing any raised hands. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next item. Thanks again to everyone for your participation, for all your great questions and comments. And I do want to remind everyone that the Air District will be sending out a FAQ, or frequently asked questions documents. So if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the comments or the chat, and we'll be sure to include them and make sure that you get those answers that you need. So now we have the standing update section of the meeting. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic on to my colleague Jem, who will be facilitating that item.
Thank you, Vanessa. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. It's been a couple of meetings since I've joined, so it's a nice opportunity to see some faces. This is Jem speaking. So we're going to keep it going with updates. Today is a night full of updates, but going back to the standing updates, and we'll start with the Air District for any air monitoring updates, and then I'll call on the agencies after that.
This is Stephanie. We are kind of finalizing the work for the monitor at La Colonia. And then we'll plan to bring updates to the CSC when we have them for that area.
Cool.
I do also maybe, I think since we do have the time, I'm wondering if we have two other district updates that we wanted to bring to you all. One regarding our annual AB617 report. I think you all might remember this. We've done this for several years now, where it's this time of the year that we do provide you all with an update just on how SERP implementation has gone for the past year. And so for this update, I am going to pass to Rocio.
Thanks, Steph. This is Rocio with the Valley Air District. Just wanted to give you an update on where we're at with the annual report. So we're actually currently working on the draft annual report to summarize the SERP implementation progress in the community. And this will be released into the CSC in the next coming weeks for review. And we actually will also plan to have this on the agenda for next month's CSC meeting. And then we can receive feedback at that time. And after that, in November, the annual report will be taken to the district governing board up for approval. Yeah, just wanted to give you an update and let you know what's to come.
Did you have one more? Anything else to add, Steph?
Yes. If I could, I'd love to pass it over to Marisela, who has a very exciting update about some of the back to school outreach that we did in the Shafter community. So I'll go ahead and pass to Mari.
Hola, muy buenas tardes a todos. Soy Marisela del Distrito del Aire. Y estoy aquí para hablarles un poco acerca del equipo de alcance que estuvo hace unas semanas ahí en su comunidad de Shafter. Alcanzaron a ir a 4 escuelas a través de las fechas del 22 de agosto y el 23 de agosto. Estuvieron en la escuela Redwood Elementary School, Richland Junior High, Golden Oak Elementary y Rio Bravo Greeley. Y estas son algunas de las imágenes que quería mostrarles del equipo haciendo este alcance con los padres. Ya sé que las imágenes están un poco posiblemente chiquitas, pero aquí les puedo expandir un poquito para que puedan ver que tenemos al equipo hablando con los padres, con los niños, hasta en la línea cuando los estaban dejando en las mañanas, están dándole los folletos, la información. Apreciamos toda la ayuda que nos ayudaron las escuelas para poder hacer este alcance con estos padres, permitirnos hacerlo y también a la comunidad de ustedes, ¿verdad? Porque ustedes nos apoyaron también en poder seguir haciendo este proyecto o este tipo de alcance en su comunidad. Aquí estamos viendo que estamos hablando con los estudiantes, ¿verdad? No solamente los padres, sino que también con los niños. Y aquí podemos ver a Rocío, que es una de las que también están aquí también en esta junta hoy con nosotros. Ella también pudo estar ahí con nosotros haciendo este alcance con este equipo. Son algunas de las imágenes. Si tienen alguna pregunta, puedo responder a cualquier cosa, pero quería hacer un breve mensaje acerca de esto. Gracias.
Thank you, Marisela. That's really exciting. Love to see all in action. Any questions or comments on the updates from the Air District before we move on to the next agency? Awesome. Thank you, team. Now we'll pivot over to CARB. If any updates from either Cameron or Brian tonight?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Cameron with CARB. Thank you, Jem. Just a reminder that the final draft of the Blueprint 2.0 program guidance document will be posted on September 26th, and I will post a link in the chat. And then a month later, the CARB board will be considering the updates to that document, the Blueprint 2.0, October 26th. So I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat where the first draft of the Blueprint 2.0 is currently on our website. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I'm also happy to take any questions right now.
Thanks, Cameron. Any questions or comments for Cameron? I'm not seeing anything in chat. All right, we will keep it moving. Any other agencies that have any updates to share with the CSC tonight? Okay, awesome. And as usual, we do like to pause at the end of each agenda item in case there are any comments from the public or any questions from the public before we move on to reviewing the action items tracker. Check the chat one more time. Thanks for sharing. And Cameron shared the link of the first draft of the Blueprint 2.0 on the chat for you all to access. Okay, so we did pivot a bit, and as you'll notice, the review of the action items tracker got bumped up to the bottom of the agenda because we wanted to prioritize the updates and the demo today. So as usual, we want to continue our effort in increasing transparency and accountability, which is why we really make some dedicated time to review these action item tracker that we update every CSC meeting. So we do appreciate the Air District's commitment to always trying to carry out those action items and keeping you all abreast with the updates that they are making with those. So I will pass it off to Rocio to provide an update on the action items. And as she does the review, feel free to ask any questions for clarification, either on chat or by raising your hand, and we'll address those. All right, Rocio, go for it.
Thank you, Jem. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, so starting off with the first action item that we have in progress. So this first action item is in regards to the Methane Task Force joint inspections of the oil wells in Shafter. Originally, we were going to have an update on those results today, but due to the recent storm events, they did get postponed and they will take place later on this week. I believe it's the 12th through the 14th. So hopefully by the next CSC meeting, we'll have an update for you guys. Moving on to the next one. So we have one for completed. In this section item for the Air District to provide updates on communications with the Ag Commissioner regarding violation of CSC group norms to develop next steps for inclusion in CSC meetings. So the district did follow up with the Ag Commissioner to convey CSC concerns and importance of being respectful and mindful of everyone's lived experiences during the CSC meetings, and we will continue to work with the Ag Commissioner and the CSC on future pesticide topics. Next action item that we have is for ongoing. So this action item is in regards to voting and giving consensus during the CSC meetings. So the district will always give notice ahead of time to let folks know if there will be a vote on the upcoming CSC meeting, if consensus is not reached, and we will also be sure to provide any relevant materials to you folks ahead of the meeting. And that is it for the action items. There's only 3 today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. If not, I'll pass it back to Jem. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't see any comments or any raised hands. So we'll just keep it going with the action items since we're on that topic before we close out tonight's meeting. So we did have a few that we recorded tonight, and let me share my screen. I'm just going to walk them through it with you all, and then please provide any clarification or correction to make sure we capture them correctly. Or if you have any questions, we're happy to walk through them now. So from tonight's meeting, these are the action items we recorded. The first one, the Air District will follow up with the following information regarding the EV truck. So there was a question about the anticipated battery life. And then another question about companies who don't have any vehicles but would like to purchase that. So there'll be some follow-up information on that, and probably will be included with the following action item, where the Air District will be sharing a survey that will outline the deadline, what the proposal is, and general information about the program and how folks can participate in the heavy duty truck replacement program. Steph, I see your hand up, go for it.
Thanks, Jem. This is Stephanie. I did want to provide a little, maybe like clarification on the second item in line with the action item that Rocio was just following up on and making sure the CSC is just up to date about just when we are kind of seeking consensus on items or voting on items. And so I did want to provide for that second item. The survey will be as a reminder to folks to seek support for submitting a project plan to CARB. And again, it'll have that clear deadline, information on the proposals, and just information about the truck program. Thank you.
Clarification, yeah, for sure. Thanks for that clarification, Steph. Any questions or comments on the first 2 items before I move on? Okay. And then the last item we have just regarding the updates. So the Air District will follow up with the maps for the both projects 1 and 2 for the bike lanes and the curb and gutter. The same ones, Steph, maybe more detailed ones that Steph showed tonight. So just a few follow-up emails on Air District from tonight's call. Any action items we may have missed, or any questions or comments about the ones we've reviewed so far? Awesome. And as always, we'll follow up on this in the following meeting. Again, thanks folks for your participation. That really informs what direction and what action items we need to take to help move the work along. All right. So with that, I believe we're moving on to, information for the next meeting. Oh, I see a hand up. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, well, before you go into that, I was wondering, this is really off topic. Has Jessica had her baby? And when will we be doing our next in-person meeting?
Steph, I'm gonna pull you in for those questions.
This is Stephanie. I have very exciting news. I think Jess would be happy to share with everyone really that she did have her baby a couple of weeks back, a baby girl named Penelope, and she's doing well. So we're looking forward to having her back probably in November, but wishing her a very happy and restful maternity leave. And the second question you had, in-person meeting, we'd love to look to have an in-person meeting with you all to kick off the beginning of next year, potentially, if that sounds good to you all.
Thank you, Stephanie. And that's exciting. Can't wait to see some photos too.
Perfect. Jem, can I actually while we do have a minute, I do want to maybe sneak in one last update to you all. I did get a private message that reminded me maybe to remind you all. I know that our Clean Air Rooms program, or essentially the program to give away free air purifiers to residents in the Shafter AB617 community, is still open. We are still seeing applications roll through, but we definitely still have plenty of funding and want to continue to get the word out. As an update to you all, Rocio did send we have these cool new kind of half sheet flyers that are really simple. They have a QR code that they just have very bare minimum information to make sure folks, aren't reading through a million things. And so Rocio did send out updated flyers to folks. If anyone wants more flyers or wants, any more information about this program, please let us know, and we're happy to send you all information to distribute to the community. We do also, when we have the last time we were actually in for the Shafter outreach that Mari mentioned, we also did a round of dropping off flyers to a lot of different community centers, different locations. And so if there are any other locations that you all think would be a great place for us to drop off information about this program, please let us know. Thank you.
Awesome. We have some interest for the flyers. Thanks, folks. And yeah, our district will definitely pass those along. Again, thank you all for the engagement tonight. Thank you for the great questions and the input you all provide that really informs and drives the direction of our next steps. And as Vanessa said, we really appreciate those who attended the last agenda setting meeting and continue to encourage you all to join them as you can. As you see, that really informs the direction of the meetings as well and the topics you all want to prioritize. If you aren't able to make those meetings, we encourage you all to reach out by calling the Air District or sending either of us an email, and we could be sure to include any topics or propose those topics in the agenda setting meeting. So with that, we're going to wrap up and just announce the upcoming meetings. So the next agenda setting meeting will be Monday, September 8th at 4 p.m. Again, if you aren't able to join it, please send us an email or give us a call so we can include your input. And the next CSC meeting will be Monday, October 9th at 5 p.m. here on Zoom again. So with that, we can close the meeting and open it up for any public comments, any announcements y'all would like to share with your colleagues while you have the community here. This would be a great time. And we do have extra time here. We're ending a bit early. Any announcements y'all would like to make to your fellow colleagues? Any public comments? All right, folks are ready for dinner. Okay, so with that said, we are happy to give you back 20 minutes to your evening. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.
Good night.